We are, if you could believe it, just 6 days into this war, into Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, a country that was peaceful until just days ago, did not attack Russia. We're hearing now from the mayor of a southern Ukrainian city of Kherson. He's posted a stark message on Facebook about the Russian attack on his town. He writes, and we're quoting, "The city is under attack. Residential buildings and urban facilities are burning. We try to coordinate the work of municipal services, but I confess it is very difficult now. We are not soldiers. We are civilians. I am at my office, and my task now is to extinguish fires, protect the Ukrainian flag over the city, save your lives, and eliminate the consequences of shelling of the city as quickly as possible. Help me. Do not go outside. Take care of yourself. That is all I ask. We are not military, but I will hold the city and its functioning as long as I can." The mayor goes on to say, "If the Russian soldiers and their leadership hear me, I ask, leave our city. Stop shelling the civilians. You have already taken everything you wanted, including human lives." Those words, Erica, heart-stopping, but it's what we're seeing in so many places now here.
Yeah, it is the reality for millions of people across that country as they wait and they watch. Joining us now, former Deputy Director of National Intelligence, Beth Sanner. Beth, good to have you with us. As we look at this, we have this warning that we know about in Kyiv, the reporting from our teams on the ground there. I know you've said that it's really the next 24 to 48 hours that has you especially concerned. What are you watching for?
Well, I saw Lavrov's speech at the UN Human Rights Council, and he absolutely doubled down on this idea of Ukraine developing nuclear weapons and having to defend against that. We are just seeing all the military signs, and we have also tomorrow the second round of negotiations. So it seems to me that, this is absolutely the doubling down in order to get Ukraine to capitulate.
Beth Sanner, as you noted when we were speaking in the break, there's been a somewhat glib discussion out there about, well, how about military strikes inside Ukraine against Russian targets or a no-fly zone that would put Western NATO, U.S. warplanes head-to-head, frankly, with Russian fighters. And I wonder if you could describe the dangers of that, but also bigger picture, where you think this is heading. Are you concerned that this could expand beyond Ukraine?
Well, I think that our actions in many ways will be the determinant of whether it will expand or not. I certainly hold Putin absolutely accountable. I'm not trying to say that. But what I am trying to say is that while we have to put everything we can into Ukraine to help the Ukrainian people, we also have to put our emotions aside as much as we can. And it's so hard watching your coverage, but we have to be very clear-headed about what the limits are in terms of what we want. And, if we go for a new no-fly zone, that literally means shooting Russian jets out of the sky. And given our arsenals, we quickly get into nuclear war. So we have to be very clear-headed.
In terms of that, that question about nuclear war, as you said, we would quickly get into nuclear war. We have heard a number of people make the point in the last day or so that with Putin saying, he has his nuclear on high alert, he would in no way hesitate to use whatever he has in his arsenal, which of course does include nuclear weapons. What is the planning happening, right? Take us inside those moments. What are the briefings happening? What are the discussions happening at this moment as we're watching everything unfold, as we're watching that 40-mile-long convoy, and as there are increased concerns about what Putin will do next as he doubles down?
Well, it makes me think of Newton's third law. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. And so you will see, and we have seen the Biden administration being very, very careful about how they responded to Putin's putting the nuclear forces on alert. And they are noting that we have not actually seen any forces move We haven't seen any bombers being filled with nuclear bombs. Okay, so, and we have not raised our level to DEFCON 3. So that was very wise because we're, right now, we have put Putin in a corner. We don't want to push him over the line.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so that is daunting to describe those very real risks. In the more immediate term, we now have Russian forces doing what U.S. intelligence had indicated for weeks, that they are unleashing full force of the Russian military on multiple cities at once, intention to cut off those cities, including the capital, decapitate the leadership here, and take over the country. I'm told by U.S. officials that as this is happening, Russia is really willing and perhaps deliberately going to target civilians as part of the plan. Is that the way you see them exercising military power on the ground here?
Yes, I do. In September of 1999, Putin was had been put in charge of the Chechen War. And there were good news media reports about how several huge apartment buildings on the outskirts of Moscow were blown up, and some security intelligence folks were held culpable for that. Putin has, in my view, done exactly the sort of thing, not at this scale, but he is willing to do anything. And right now, look what we are putting him in a position of. He is the most isolated Russia has ever seen. We are bringing his economy to its knees. He has to keep the military and the elites on his side. What would be the rational thing to do? Would the rational thing to do right now to be, never mind, so sorry, I'm giving up, when we already have the ICC talking about war crimes? We are not talking about pulling those sanctions back if he stops now. So what do? You double down. And so if you're going to try to pressure the Ukrainians into capitulation, it's all in. Everything's on the table.
What we're seeing is already unthinkable. We have a land war in Europe. We have Russia essentially trying to steal another country as Vladimir Putin tries to move his borders, and he claims Ukraine is part of Russia. Of course, it is not. The question is, would he move on from there? Listen to the Polish ambassador to the United States earlier today saying, I bet he will.
What do you worry is Russia's next move after Ukraine?
I'm pretty sure that this is not the last item on Mr. Putin's menu, unfortunately. Poland will be targeted, the Baltics will be targeted.
Do you believe that to be true, that Vladimir Putin, it's taken him 10 years to do this. He's taken little bites of Ukraine. Now he's trying to take it all. Do you believe Vladimir Putin has broader plans? And at this moment, then, what must the United States, the NATO allies, and the Western world do?
The honest truth, John, is nobody knows, but I don't think any of us can dismiss that possibility. We're obviously going to see escalation in terms of munitions. I don't think we can rule out the use of, say, chemical munitions. We obviously can't rule out the use of cyber against a wide array of targets in Europe and the United States. And that this idea of war widening. I can imagine Mr. Putin to go after the Baltics, conceivably Poland, also conceivably a sanctuary in a place like Poland that was being used to supply the Ukrainian resistance. And I think the lesson of this is we've got to be prepared for all of it. We've got to think about what we might signal to Russia to deter it. This is the big lesson of this is be really careful about assumptions or what this rational leader might do, because he might not be rational.